These cards break Fi. Hello and welcome to the table, and today I'm back with another Flesh and Blood deck attack video. Today talking about the Draconic Ninja, the master of aggro, Fi. This deck is already good in Sage, but there have been two new cards that are going to be going in Fi, thanks to Compendium of Rathe. And to put it mildly, this deck is broken, and these new cards break Fi. So what does Fi do? He is a 4 intellect, 20 life Draconic Ninja hero at the start of the game, puts a Phoenix Flame into your graveyard. What's a Phoenix Flame, you may ask? A 0 cost Draconic attack action with Go Again and 0 power. It costs nothing to play. That sounds awful, but if you have 2 or more Draconic Chain Links, it actually gets +1 power. So that's pretty sweet. Just a free 1 attack in your graveyard. Well, how are you supposed to take advantage of that? Well, Fi here says as a once per turn instant, you can spend 3 resources to return that Phoenix Flame from your graveyard to your hand. But this ability does cost 1 less to activate for each Draconic Chainlink you control. So that's really nice, because you can just play, 2, 3 Draconic Chainlinks, and this ability costs nothing to activate, basically, and that's 1 extra damage that your opponent has to deal with every single turn. It's like a bonus weapon that you get to have every turn, as long as the deck is being aggressive and stupid like it's supposed to. So if you couldn't already tell, you want to play as many chain links as possible. You want to go super wide. You want to play a million cards, a million Draconic cards to be specific, so that you can activate Fi's ability to play a Phoenix Flame, basically, 1 damage for free every single turn. And on top of that, get some extra bonus value out of plenty of the cards in this deck. So Fi, very, very straightforward and very fun. But getting past the leader, or hero, let's talk about the weapon and the equipment. The weapon being Searing Emberblade. This card's just awesome. It's a 3-power Draconic Ninja weapon, sword, that, as once per turn action, you can spend 2 to attack with. And if you have 2 or more Draconic Chain Links, this card's attack gets Go Again. So it's a 2 cost 3 attack Go Again. Most of the time. That's really sweet. You want to play 1 Draconic Chain Link, 1 just normal guy, and then play a Searing Emberblade, attack with the Searing Emberblade because it counts itself. So basically, all you need is to play 1 Draconic Chain Link prior to this, 1 Draconic attack prior to this, pitch a blue, have 1 resource floating, attack with the Searing Emberblade for 3 Go Again, and continue from there. So it makes it even easier to activate Fi's ability, once per turn instant speed ability. But then, the equipment also goes really well with Fi. You got cards like Blade Beckoner Helm, which blocks for 1 guard well, but it gets +1 defense while defending a weapon. So basically, it can block 2 on a weapon, or 1 on a weapon and 1 on a non-weapon. Either way, really freaking good, because it's a 2 block. That's pretty nice. And if you need a little, couple little extra ways to stay alive, just for a little bit longer, 2 block, that's basically 2 extra life that you now have. It's nice. But then, on top of that, you got all the Crouching Tiger-esque equipment. This deck does not care about Crouching Tigers at all, but you'll see why we have these equipment here in a quick second. First, we got Blood Scent, a 1-block battle-worn piece of equipment. All these block for 1 battle-worn, and have instant speed abilities that destroy themselves. Blood Scent being to gain a resource, but only if you've attacked with a Crouching Tiger this turn. Well, okay, you can get 1 resource and block for 1 battle-worn if you've attacked with a Crouching Tiger, but this deck doesn't play any cards that make Crouching Tigers. Just wait a second. We also got Terran Shuko, a 1-block battle-worn arm piece that add instant speed, can destroy itself, and give the next Crouching Tiger you play this turn +2 power. If you don't already know, a Crouching Tiger is a token that comes in for 0 damage and it has Go Again. So, hey, now it can be a 2 attack with Go Again. But again, you don't have ways to create Crouching Tigers in this deck. At least in the main deck. Because you do have 1 piece of equipment, Pouncing Paws, that can pop itself to create a Crouching Tiger in your Banner Zone and anyway play it this turn. So, you can just simply come in for 0 with that Crouching Tiger. Oh wait, sorry, 2 thanks to Tearing Shuko. And then get 1 little extra resource off of the Blood Scent. So basically, yes, it can be inconvenient sometimes with the Blood Scent. Maybe you want to have a different piece of equipment so you can get that resource, more easily. Because you don't have to, depend on that Crouching Tiger attack. But the fact that it's an instant speed ability to get a resource, it's useful sometimes, and it blocks your own Battle Worn. So both cases there, it's really good. But more importantly, what matters here is it's getting you 1 more Chain Link, and that's 2 more damage your opponent just has to deal with at some point in the game. And that can be really nice. That can be 1 extra way to push, particularly your opponent. But then getting into the main deck itself, there are 3 different categories of cards I want to talk about. The first category being Innate Go Again pieces. So basically, cards that just have Go Again, period in a sentence. No condition to them whatsoever. They just get Go Again. So, to start things off, we got Brand with Cinderclaw, which I also have the yellow copy and blue copy of, and I got 2 copies of each. Because this card's really important. Because if you couldn't already tell, Draconic Chain Links, they're important. But Crouching Tiger, that I just talked about, that's not a Draconic card. Well, Brand of Cinderclaw says otherwise, because it's 0 cost, 3 attack with 2 defense, and Go Again. Says when it attacks, your next attack this combat chain is Draconic, which means that Crouching Tiger can be Draconic, which also means, hey, this Fire Tenant Strike First is also Draconic, because, Brand of Cinderclaw just makes it Draconic, but it's also nice for the fact that, hey, that's 1 more Draconic Chain Link, and this is already a 0 for 3 with Go Again, that when it attacks, gives your next Draconic attack this combat chain +1 power. So it's basically a 0 for 4 Go Again, which honestly is absurdly broken and one of the better cards that has come out for Fi in recent years. If you don't count the Compendium of Rathe cards, I'll get to here in a second. Speaking in a second, let's get to one of them right now, Fire That Burns Within, which is a really good card and one of the cards that now breaks Fi. But there's another piece to it to really break it that I want to talk about before reading this card. That card being Rise from the Ashes, a card that I have not played or had in Fi for a hot minute, because you just want to play as many attacks as possible, get as many Draconic Chain Links down as possible, and that's, still the case, so why do you play this? Well, Rise from the Ashes here is a 0 cost Draconic Ninja non-attack action with Go Again, defense for 2, and gives your next Draconic or Ninja attack action card you play this turn +3 power. That's nice, yes. But on top of that, you get to return a Phoenix Flame from your graveyard to your hand. So you can kind of go wider in a sense with this card. You can attack for 1 or maybe 4, depending on how many Draconic Chain Links you have, with a Phoenix Flame. And then just, let it go into the graveyard, close the combat chain, let it go into the graveyard, use Fi's ability again, and then, get that Phoenix Flame, or use Fi's ability to get that Phoenix Flame back and attack again. I don't know. You can basically do some shenaniganry to attack with the Phoenix Flame twice, and on top of that, you get a +3 power bump. But it's not that good. But it is that good with the Fire That Burns Within, because you need a Phoenix Flame in hand with this card. Because this 1 cost 2 attack would Go Again. Seems pretty bad at first. A 1 cost 2 attack Go Again? That's awful. But you have something like a Rise from the Ashes, you return a Phoenix Flame to your hand. And when Fire That Burns Within attacks, you may discard a Phoenix Flame. Hey, I have a Phoenix Flame. All right, let's discard it. And if you do, you draw a card, and this gets +2 power. So to picture this in your brain real quick. Let's play a Rise from the Ashes. Let's get that Phoenix Flame that's automatically going to be in our graveyard right back to our hand, and giving our next attack +3 power. All right, now let's pitch a blue. Play a Fire That Burns Within for 1. Oh, wait, or cost 1. Spending 1 of those 3 resources. Now you're down to 2. This is coming in for 2. Oh, wait, let's discard this Phoenix Flame. Okay, now I get to draw a card, and this is coming in for 4. Actually, wait, I get the bump from Rise from the Ashes. It's coming in for 7. Go Again, and you get to draw a card. So basically, you play the Rise from the Ashes. You get a Phoenix Flame back to the hand. You don't go down any cards in hand effectively. Then you play Fire That Burns Within. You go down a card from hand, but then you discard that Phoenix Flame and then draw a new card. You're getting more value. This is coming in for more damage, and now it's just going to be 7 Go Again. And you have 2 resources left. What's a 2-cost card that we can attack with? Searing Emberblade. It costs 2 to attack with. We pitched a blue. We used one of them to play the Fire That Burns Within, and now 2 more for the Searing Emberblade. Now we spent, 3 cards from hand, and then, because of the pitch card, because of the Rise from the Ashes, and because of Fire That Burns Within, we've spent 3 cards, kind of, because we've drawn a card with the Fire That Burns Within, and now we've come in for 10 damage. And we can still keep going, because this will have Go Again, thanks to the Fire That Burns Within being a Draconic Chain Link. So that's pretty sweet. That is pretty sweet in my opinion. But there's more than just that. There's more innate Go Again cards in the deck, like Ronin Renegade. A very simple 0-cost re-attack Go Again. Draconic Ninja attack. Pretty simple, pretty good. But there's an even better one, because it's the same card, Rising Resentment. It's also a 0-cost re-attack Go Again, but it has more to it. It also allows you to, on hit, banish an attack action card from your hand with a cost less than the number of Draconic Chain Links you control. So you play this for 1, or for nothing, and then it hits. Okay, you can banish something that costs 0 from your hand, and it'll cost 1 less. That sucks. Okay, this is our second Draconic Chain Link. Now, let's banish, if this hits, a 1 cost. Like Fire That Burns Within, for example, from our hand. Now it's going to cost nothing to play, thanks to Rising Resentment. That's pretty sweet. That's pretty sweet indeed. What's another card that we can, spend nothing, thanks to Rising Resentment, to attack with? Another card that conveniently has innate Go Again, Mounting Anger. A 1-cost 4 attack Go Again that, when it hits, allows you to banish an action card from your hand with a cost less than the number of Draconic Chain Links you control. If you do, it gets a +1 power bump for the turn. Okay, sweet. We get to play a Draconic card, another Draconic card, and the Mountain Anger, and then right after, we get to play, if this hits, and it's a 4 hit, it's a 4 attack, so your opponent's going to have to put more on top of this, defend more with this, in order to make sure it doesn't hit. And if it does hit, boom. Now we got something coming in for 1 more damage than it otherwise would. That, in my opinion, is pretty sweet. But that's all of the innate Go Again cards in the deck. Now let's talk about the conditional Go Again cards in the deck. The first one being Blaze Headlong. This card is pretty good. It's pretty good, because if you haven't already noticed, there's a lot of reds in this deck. And this 0 for 4 Draconic attack says if you've played another red card this turn, again, pretty easy to do, it gets Go Again. This is the easiest card, as far as Conditional Go Again goes, to, accomplish. Because you can just play something like a Rise from the Ashes. Doesn't have to be another Draconic Chain Link. It can just be, like other cards I'll get to here in a second, but you could play a Rise from the Ashes, boom. Now let's play the Blaze Headlong. Now it's coming in for 4 Go Again. That's pretty nice. And then, you can continue from there. You can do kind of some of the stuff I was talking about earlier. You can play Rising Resentment. Now, if that hits, you can banish the Fire from that Burns Within. You can use the Phoenix Flame you got back from the Rise of the Ashes, and then discard it to the Fire That Burns Within. Now it's coming in for 4 Go Again, and you draw a card. You replace that Phoenix Flame with something else. That's going to be better. That's going to come in for more. You see what I'm getting at here? It all just works so well together. But then, getting past that, we also got Display Loyalty, which is a 0-cost re-attack that, so long as you have 2 or more Draconic Chain Links. Again, why this card's a little bit easier, because you could play any red, including this, which is not a Draconic Chain Link. But this, you need to have another Draconic Chain Link, because it does, again, count itself as a Draconic Chain Link. So if you play something like a Rising Resentment into Display Loyalty, it gets Go Again, so it's a 3 attack with Go Again. And when it attacks a hero, you get to create a fealty token, which simply means at the end of your turn, if you haven't played, or if you haven't created a fealty token or played a Draconic Chain Link or something like that, it destroys itself. But you can use a fealty token to make your next attack Draconic, which matters a lot because, we have cards in this deck that aren't Draconic, like Fire Tenant Strike First. We don't have many, But this is one of them, and we like to play this card, so we want to make sure it's Draconic to get the most value possible out of our cards. But then the next card that has Conditional Go Again I want to talk about is the other card that breaks Fi. Inflame the Firebrand, a 0-cost 2-attack 3-block that when it attacks, if you control 2 or more Draconic Chain Links, it gets Go Again. Pretty simple. But there's more to it. 3 or more Draconic Chain Links, your attacks are Draconic this combat chain. That's awesome. And it doesn't say your next Draconic attack either. It says your attacks across the entire combat chain are Draconic. So why does that matter? Yes, you've already played some of them, but your next ones, yeah, they're going to be Draconic. That's awesome too. So you can play something like a Fire Tenant, strike first, and make sure that it's Draconic after you played this Inflame the Firebrand, but it also makes the other stuff you played previously Draconic. So if you had played something like a Fire Tenant, strike first already, and then you played this, okay, well now that card is Draconic, and then we don't have to worry about playing another card afterwards in order to use Fi's ability. That's pretty nice, because it'll make our stuff that we've already attacked with Draconic, and now we just don't have to worry as much. We don't have to put as much resources into playing more Draconic cards, because, we're eventually going to run out of cards in hand. But if you do happen to have played 4 more Draconic Chain Links, including this one, it also gets a +2 power bump. So it could be a 0-for-2 Go Again, fine. But it makes all your stuff Draconic, which is great, and can allow some clunky turns to just be way better than they otherwise would be. And on top of that, it can still be better. It can be a 4-attack with Go Again. The flexibility of this card is insane. And yes, on the surface, it's just going to be a 0-for-2 Go Again. That's not great. But just the more you do in a turn, and this card's just so flexible in general, it's just there's so much to it. And I feel like just no matter when you play it, it's going to do so much. And getting one more card that's just pretty easily going to be able to get Go Again just allows the deck to do so much more and be so much more consistent. And thanks to its own effects, be more consistent, be less clunky if you have played stuff already that's not Draconic, and you need those things to be Draconic. How else are you going to make them Draconic? You can't. But with this card, you can. So it's just nice. It allows the clunkiness to be a little less clunky, allows the deck to be more consistent, and all that kind of good stuff. But then, getting past that, we also have Hot on Their Heels, which, if you have played 2 or more Draconic Chain Links, or if you control 2 or more Draconic Chain Links, it gets Go Again, and then on hit doesn't matter, and it's a 0-for-3. So it's a 0-for-3 Go Again, pretty much. That's all we care about. It's a 0-for-3 Go Again, we love that. And it blocks for 3, which can matter too, sometimes. But then we also got Scar for a Scar, a 0-for-4 that, when played, as long as you have less life than an opposing hero, it gets Go Again. A 0-for-4 Go Again. There's nothing to dislike about that, and hey, that's something that's not Draconic. We want to make sure that's Draconic. And, Inflame the Firebrand, one more thing that makes this card good, and, there's plenty of stuff in the past that we've talked about already that can make that Scar for a Scar Draconic. But, you just want to make all your stuff Draconic. I know I've said it a bunch. And Scar for a Scar, it's a good card, and it can become Draconic in various different ways, and we love that. But then, getting into the next category of cards, I want to talk about the Chain Enders. The non-Go Again gaining cards. These cards, none of them are going to get Go Again, unless you do some shenaniganry of sorts. But, in general, they're not gonna get Go Again. So, you play them at the end. You play them at the end of your turn to finish things off. First one being Art of Dragonfire, a simple one-of in the deck. It's a 1-cost 5 attack that is not Draconic, but when it attacks, if it is Draconic, it deals 2 damage to any target. So it's a 1-cost, in a way, 7 damage dealing card. And 2 of that damage basically ain't going to be preventable. It's not arcane damage. If your opponent has ward, yeah, then it can be prevented. But otherwise, it's a 1-cost 5 attack that just deals 2 damage to your opponent, and they just got to suck it up. that can just kill them outright at the end of a game, or it can just make them a little bit lower, and they gotta worry about this that much more. So it's a really nice card. But then on top of that, we also got Lava Burst. That is a 0 for 2, that blocks for 3, and it's Draconic, but it has Rupture. That means when it is played, if it is the 4th or higher chain link, it gets +3 power. So if this is the 4th card that you're attacking with, whether it's Draconic or not, like if you played other Draconic cards already or not, as long as it is the 4th thing that you're attacking with in a turn, in a row, or whatever, it's coming in for 5 damage and it costs nothing to attack with. A 0 for 5 is pretty nuts. And also blocks for 3. So this card all around, yeah, it doesn't have Go Again, but it's a 5 damage dealing attack at the end of the chain, and that's pretty nice. But then there's also Snatch. We love it. It's awesome. It's a 0 for 4 that on hit draws you a card. It's just a great card at the very end. Your opponent is just like, they probably aren't going to have much left. You come in for 4 with this. You can set up an arsenal or just get more cards out of your opponent's hand because they don't want this thing to get in for damage. You don't want your opponent to hit you, or your opponent doesn't want to get hit by this Snatch because that's a card being put into your arsenal and has 5 cards potentially that you're going to have access to on your next turn. So they want to make sure that the Snatch doesn't hit, and it's either going to hit because it's going to be the last thing you're attacking with, or you get another card out of their hand and an equipment block, or a 4 block, or whatever, and you're going to be very, very happy. So there you go. But then, I could talk about the pitch cards, Brand with Cinder Claw, yellow and blue. There are some other blues, Cinder Skin Devotion, Dragon Power, and Nip at the Heels, which can sometimes be a convenient attack reaction and can give a +1 power bump. But generally speaking, those blues, they don't really matter besides pitch. And they all block for 3, basically. So that's nice too. But, that's not what matters. What matters in the next category of cards is the inventory, which there's a lot to talk about here. The first card being Arcane Polarity. Not Arcane Polarity. Let's not talk about that just yet. Let's talk about Phoenix Flame. Another Phoenix Flame in the inventory. If you need to, basically have the ability to play a ton more Phoenix Flames, you need to basically go as wide as possible. You want to make sure you can just get as much value out of going wide as possible. You gotta have another Phoenix Flame in the deck, and you can put another one in the deck thanks to there being a second copy of it in the inventory. Now, when would you want to have a second Phoenix Flame in your deck so you can go wider, so you can get more value out of certain cards like Rise from the Ashes and something Through the Flame? Salt the Wound. A 0 for 2 non-draconic ninja attack that does not have Go Again, but gets +1 power for each attack that has hit this combat chain. So if you've hit, let's say 3 times, maybe because of a couple little pokes from a Phoenix Flame, this is now coming in for 5 damage, which, hey, we like, this card here, Lava Burst, because it's a 0 for 5, but this can be even bigger. If you've hit 5 times, let's say, well, now it's a 0 for 7, and that's insane. A 1-card 7 is completely nuts. And it's very easy for this to just be a 0 for 4. So even just a yellow 0 for 4 that's already great. But the fact that it can get bigger and bigger and bigger is what makes this card especially nice in those matchups where you need to go as wide as possible to have 2 copies of this in the inventory. But speaking of matchups where you can go wider, technically you wouldn't have this in the deck in those situations, but you do want to go wide with this card because it's Breaking Point, a very good card that if you need to be disrupting your opponent more so their arsenal, you got this card. Because Breaking Point here is a 1 cost 5 attack 3 block that, as long as it has been played as the 4th or higher chain link, it, on hit, destroys all cards in your opponent's arsenal. So if your opponent, let's say is an aggro deck, they've been keeping something in their arsenal for a while, you want to make sure they get as little value out of something like their arsenal or going super wide as often as possible. You play Breaking Point in the deck. Or you're playing against a deck that loves to set up. And they always love having that 1 card in the arsenal to make sure they can do a little bit more on their turn. you play a Breaking Point, and now they've no longer got an arsenal. Now, this is a very common card to slot into the main deck, but I don't always think it's necessary against every single deck, so I have it in the inventory. But it's a very, very common card that you're going to put into the main deck, so don't be like, I don't know, confused as to why that's happening. It's a very, very good card. It's a very good chain closer, and it's a very good card in general. But then, if you need to be a little bit more defensive, you know, maybe against an aggressive deck like you would play Breaking Point for, you can play a Wax On too. A 0-cost ninja defense reaction that blocks for 3, but while it is defending an attack action with a cost of 0, it gets +2 defense. So you're playing against something like a Briar, for example, or a lot of ninja decks. There's a lot of decks, basically, that they are going to just have an absolute suite of 0-cost cards to attack with. This can block for 5. And you'd be surprised how often there's a random deck that has a 0-cost 5 attack in it. Like, let's say, this deck, Phi. You're playing against another Phi deck. Lava Bursts, they're pretty common to see in games, so might as well make sure that they don't come in for as much damage. And yeah, sometimes you're going to overblock with this card, but just the 0-cost defense reaction that can block for 4 or block for 5, it's not easy to come by in this meta, or in this format. So Wax On, it's a pretty good card to have. But speaking of defense, let's talk about Arcane Damage again. I know I talked about Arcane Polarity for a split second before switching back to a different card. But against Arcane Damage dealing decks, you do need to be a little bit defensive because you're never going to be able to defend against them more often than not. Whereas with other decks where it's just like, oh, I play an 8 attack. Well, you can actually block with cards from your hand. That's not necessarily the case with those Arcane Damage dealing matchups, so you want to have something like an Arcane Polarity that, as long as you've been dealt Arcane Damage this turn, for 0 resources at instant speed, gains you 4 life. Otherwise, it gains you 1, but you play it to gain 4 life. A 0-cost 4 life gain is absurd. Again, in every single sideboard in Sage, you play this in the sideboard. It's that good. Just play it. So yeah, Arcane Polarity, very, very good. On top of that, we also got Mask of the Swarming Claw, another awesome card from Compendium of Rathe. It doesn't break the deck necessarily, but it's a great card in the deck because it has Arcane Barrier 1, and it's a headpiece, so it's great to replace the Blade Beckoner Helm with in those Arcane Damage dealing matchups, but Arcane Barrier 1, great start. And it also has Spell Void X, where X is the number of chain links you control. So you're playing against a wizard deck, for example. Well, they're going to be playing stupid Arcane Damage dealing cards on your turn because they're wizards and they suck. But this has Spell Void X, where X is the number of chain links you control. And if you couldn't already tell, this deck likes to go wide. And if you be dealt Arcane Damage on a turn where you go wide, you can destroy this to prevent X of that Arcane Damage. So if you're playing against a wizard and they want to play that Arcane Damage dealing card, they got to play it immediately, and then that can disrupt them in their game plan and what they want to do, which is awesome for you because, you know, they don't want to deal with that Spell Void X. So it disrupts their game flow, which is great for you because that might screw you over if, you know, they want to play it at a different time. And it would, out of nowhere, just say, hey, I play this, deal 4 Arcane Damage to you, and your next thing doesn't get Go Again or whatever. Like in the middle of a chain or whatever. That's really bad for you. But this, just right off the get-go, can just immediately muck up their plans if it matters. And that's just great. But Mask of the Swarming Claw, great card. In this deck is now much, much better thanks to the new cards that absolutely break the deck. Fire that Burns Within, Inflame the Firebrand being the 2 cards I'm talking about here. And for a Sage deck, it costs $30. It's an absolute blast of a deck to play. And your opponent's probably not going to despise you because you're playing one of, you know, the absolute absurd top tier decks in the meta. So just play Fi. It's an absolute blast. It's super fun. It's super cheap. It's getting some new goodies from Compendium of Rathe, a set that's looking better and better as the days go by. But with all that aside, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. It's completely free. You won't regret it. Check out my other Sage deck tech videos. Link down below or to the side there. You can check them out right there. And I'll see you all there.